from the Gordon Goodwin's Big Phat Band play-along for drums. This is Big Band lesson number 4, and this tune is pretty much the most difficult one in the book. It's pretty quick. It's a half note equals 126. So it's not blazingly fast, but it's fast, and it's one of those tempos I call a nooks and crannies tempo, where it's kind of in the middle of the up-tempo spectrum. So when you play real fast, it's a little bit easier because you can get into this flow of your right hand. But this tempo is a bit under that. It's about. So the tendency for most drummers is to try to accelerate so they're comfortable. In other words, they would accelerate up to that faster tempo. So we have to try to avoid that, and so I would suggest practicing at this tempo with some coordination exercises so you don't rush. That's the biggest tendency I see in my students when they play this tempo. They'll rush the time, because it is a tricky tempo right on the borderline of being comfortable. So let's talk about this a little. All these things start with a click, and you have a couple bars, and then you play this buzz roll from nothing to fortissimo, and really hit that first marcato note. And then play your hi-hat time. Now this tune is full of something we call stop time. In other words, the band is playing stop time figures while a soloist or someone is playing over those figures. So those figures need to be right in time. You can help the band out by playing your hi-hat in the beginning, and he even notates that, so that the band is playing with those figures. Now, at bar 17, you can play your hi-hat there as well, or you can just, if the band is good and they got good time, you can just set those figures up, which is what I'm doing. He writes fill in there, so just short little figures, not too much. If you play too much, it'll interfere with what the band's playing. So just nice and clean and precise figures so that everybody knows where the beat is, okay? And then we're into time. Like most of his tunes, they have, peaks and valleys. They flow pretty well. We get to this point at bar 61 where we're getting louder and louder until you get to a drum solo at 65, and I would recommend that drum solo be really strong and busy. This is where you can use all those chops that you practice for years and years, because you have to continue the flow, the energy. The last thing you want to do is leave a lot of silence in there, because the energy just drops and disappears. And also try to make sure you're off on beat 3 at bar 68, so the band knows where you are. So that's one thing you can do. Or you can play, I played, I think, a group of triplets. That's pretty much super obvious. Snare drum triplets. Most big band horn players are used to that kind of thing. So, and then we have the solo section. There's 2 choruses each, and the second time on each, you play the backgrounds. But the first time, we have an interesting little thing where there is stop time, and it says light time behind soloist. Now, you can do a few things here. You can actually stop and just play the hi-hat and catch the figures. I chose to play through this, so kind of like a soloist drum thing, like a kind of Elvin Coltrane kind of thing in a way. I like that. I like to keep the energy, like I keep saying, going. So I'll play some light time and try to play with the soloist, goose him along or her along, and catch the figures within that. So again, you don't have to do it that way, but that's the way I choose to do this. And during that section, don't keep the hi-hat on 2 and 4. So it creates too much of a strict time feel, in my opinion. In other words, it anchors the soloist in too much. You guys can be a little bit flexible. So I don't play the hi-hat on 2 and 4 there, but I do intersperse it coordination-wise with everything else I'm doing. So give a listen to that. That's bar 85, and that happens 4 times in the solo section. So you may want to check out each time I'm playing it a little bit different. And again, not 2 and 4 on the hi-hat, but using the hi-hat as another limb. Okay? And then we get to bar 115, which is basically a bass and drum solo. It says time and fills. I'm just playing time, and I'm letting the bass player kind of do it as a walking solo. Again, these are my preferences. Every drummer might play this different. And then I'm kind of getting softer and softer each time, just a tiny bit, till at 119 we're pretty much down to piano, soft. And then we're building from there, big time, to the end. So you want to start pretty soft there and try to catch those figures softly. And then again, at 135, we have the stop time. Now here, I am keeping the hi-hat going. He even dictates that, okay? But I'm catching the figures with my cymbal and my snare drum. So you'll see that again if you watch that a few times. That's kind of difficult to do because you got to use your left hand to dampen the cymbal and your right hand to play the fills. All right, and then we're off to 149, which is kind of the big part of the tune till the end. And now these 16th note run, I mean the 8th note runs that happen quite often at 151, that's the first one. I don't play those with the band. It's too busy. So I'll play around them. So I won't play decka, 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 decka. I'll play around them with the time and I'll hit one hard. So I think that just sounds better. Again, you can approach it how you want, but to me it sounds too machine-like to play it every note with the band. You can play around the figures. You don't need to play every single one exactly as written. And I'm doing a lot of that towards the end here. I did that on purpose. So you can see a lot of the other videos I've made, I'm playing pretty simply. Here, this tune, I'm playing almost recklessly. So you can see sort of stretching out. And if I had a confident band, that's what I would do. Of course, if I'm playing with a band I've never played before, I'm going in and I'm sight reading, which I do quite often. I'm going to play a lot simpler than this because I don't know the band. I don't know what their time is. I don't know what their rhythmic telepathy is, if I'm going to lose them. And we don't want to do that. So I play a lot simpler. But here, since it's a recording and they're not listening to me, I have some freedom to play around the band, okay? At bar 177, we have what's called a pedal tone with the bass, so bum, 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 bum. Now you can play that really simply. Here I chose, like I said, to play a little busier, so I'm filling that in with a roll. To me, it's really exciting, almost kind of like a Buddy Rich kind of thing he would do. He always played kind of over the top. So and obviously it's great, if you like that kind of playing. And then bigger and bigger, and then again at 183, you're going to want to play a very notey, busy, full of energy solo, okay? And right into that upbeat before 186. So it's a continuous flow of energy. You never want to let that energy dissipate. That's a big thing with playing up-tempo tunes. You keep the energy up, especially in your solos. And then from there out, we have that little figure at the end, 197. I chose to keep that pretty simple just to show you, because I haven't had the opportunity to show you that kind of figure. That's very popular in big band charts. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Those things are called hemiolas. It's an implied time signature within another. Very, very common in jazz, with jazz arrangers, jazz composers. So there I'm just playing a little fill in between. I'm going. And that sets the band up really nice. And then at the end, I'm catching those figures just by themselves because there's a retardando there. It says poco, small retard. But usually that would be cued by the alto sax player, the lead alto sax player, unless there's a conductor. So I'm just playing the individual notes. You don't want to fill those in. If you fill those in, there's liable to be a train wreck and you'll sound like, someone falling down the stairs. So you don't want to do that. And then, make it very clean there. So that's cut and run. Next, I'm going to try to post some different styles of big band tunes. I'm going to do a few Latin things and maybe do a few rock or funk things. So thanks for listening. See you next time.